We'll see people are starting to come in. Welcome, everyone. We're going to wait a bit as we see people signing on here. We're excited to have you all with us tonight. Wait just a moment more as a few more folks log on. Okay. I think we're going to begin, so we make sure we have enough time to get through the program. Welcome, everyone. My name is Lori Prince. I serve as the Director of Parent and Family Engagement, and we're excited to have you here for our webinar with the Dean of our College of Science and Engineering, Dr. Amit Shukla. Dr. Shukla has been our Dean since this summer in July he started, but he has over 2 decades worth of experience in higher ed at Miami University in Ohio, but we're glad you've come from the Midwest to the West Coast. As we're here tonight, we have questions that you have submitted to us, but we also invite you to submit more questions in the Q&A section, should you choose it. Dr. Shukla has a presentation where he'll answer some of those questions. We get to hear from some parents of an alum from the College of Science and Engineering, and then again, we will try to get to any other questions you might put into the Q&A section. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our Dean, Amit Shukla.
Thank you, Lori. Good evening, everyone. My name is Amit Shukla, and I'm the Dean of College of Science and Engineering at CRLU. It gives me a great pleasure to be with you today. I'm so thankful for your participation in this conversation. And as I was telling my team, I'm a parent of a college freshman as well, so I understand, some of the concerns you are experiencing and may have questions about. In fact, I would also say that you're placing a big trust in us to take care of your children, and we value that trust, and we are here to support them. So as we begin the day today, I wanted to start by sharing some information, and maybe the best way to do this is through this lens. First of all, I wanted to invite you to open a channel of communication with you. So if you can see this screen, here is my email address. And I would say if you have a concern or a question or a thought, please write to me. We are always eager to hear from you as parents of our students and parents of our alumni. And down the road, we look forward to hearing more about what your student is doing. But that's just an open invitation. So what I thought we will do is looking at some of the topics which came up. I put together this opening remark, which is really to talk about where the college has been and where the College of Science and Engineering is going. So one of the reasons why SU is so unique and special is that it is an environment where we tremendously value student-faculty interaction. The student-faculty interaction, not just in the classroom, but outside the classroom, mentoring which happens in the hallway, in the research lab, in just all kinds of situations which are organically or designed by curriculum happening. As we also grow our college, we are driven by a few directions which are in our strategic plan. So as an institution, we have a strategic plan, which is called Reignited Strategic Directions. And there are 4 buckets, which I would like to point out today. One is, how do we reposition for growth? So growth, in my mind, comes from 2 things. One is the need for our graduates. Society is becoming more and more driven by science and technology, and our college is the place for that. But more importantly, I would say the college as part of Seattle U brings a unique perspective, because we have a core curriculum, we have a dedication to educating the whole person, a mission to creating leaders for the just and humane world. So with that mission, with those sets of values, all of our faculty and staff come to work with your students. So it's a positioning for growth because of the society and what it needs. It's also positioning for growth because we think that our story needs to be told better. Our story at CLLU, our story of which, of course, our students and alumni are a big part of it, and their success is what drives us. We need to tell that story better. So not only the size of the college, but also the impact of the college needs to grow. And we are working on many levels to achieve that. The other part, which is very close to my heart, is that we want all of our students to excel. And that is within the umbrella of this inclusive excellence. So what I mean by that is our college is dedicated to educating every single student who joins us. And also, we actively will work on diversifying our student body. We are doing very well. In fact, 50% of all of our faculty are women, and in science and engineering, 54% of our student body is identifying as women. So that is a big achievement, a success story, but there is so much more we can do. And my office and our college is intently focused on enhancing that diversity of ideas, diversity in all forms, diversity of background, diversity of socioeconomic backgrounds, because this is also a need for STEM disciplines. When we talk to our employers, and I'll show you some data about who employs our students down the road, they are demanding that our graduates come from diversity of background. So we are trying to work on that. As part of this strategic direction, we are also reimagining the curriculum. So what does that mean? Well, science and technology, again, has become so integrated with our lives, daily lives, that nobody who goes to SU should come out graduated without having some exposure to some of the emerging thought processes. And that's where we are going to be integrally partnering with the broader community and taking our approach to education more broadly than just the students in our college. And then finally, we really have to enhance the student experience. And our faculty and staff are very focused on student success. We are working to support them. But what we have also realized is through the pandemic, the generation of students who we will be working with has changed, and has changed dramatically. There are different needs. There are different ways these students study and learn. So we need to be able to support them through different variety of conversations, different support mechanisms, and really create that student experience where a student is very well supported and can be successful. And success is defined individually, not as an average data point. So those 4 bullets are guiding some of the activities in our college. And what I would suggest that you ask your student to do is to be engaged, and to be engaged not just in their classroom, because that's where our faculty will definitely make sure, but also beyond the classroom. Go to the office hour, go to seek, work with the students where they can actually come up with research projects or other opportunities. If they have questions, go to the teacher, go to their advisor, talk to them, and ask about, how do you prepare for the first interview? This is just a snapshot of where our student body is. We have almost 1,400 students in our college, and numbers have shifted a little from undergraduate to graduate side, but I just wanted to give that as a starting point. Also noting that just last year, we hired 11 new faculty members and 5 new staff members to support your students. So we have 1,400 students, but we also have 140 staff and faculty in the College of Science and Engineering. So that's a ratio of 10 to 1, which is very impressive. And that is how we make sure that we can actually come up with a personal attention to the student and in their journey. Some of the things which I get to brag about, we have one of our graduates actually is now assistant professor at MIT, Sarah Beery. She is also the leading scientist on computer vision for environment, sustainability, and conservation. I bring her example because this is really a perfect example of what SU education can do. First of all, what I didn't tell you is that Sarah was a non-traditional student. She was a ballerina for the longest time. And then when she finished that career, she took up electrical engineering. On top of that, due to her research experiences, she was very inclined and inspired to be a teacher. And hence she pursued doctorate and went on to now, work as a lead scientist for Google for many times. She interned with Google for several years and now is going to start as an assistant professor at MIT, which is, of course, a sense of pride for us. But she's just one of many. So we can talk about a lot of our alums. Many folks have done amazing things, and you will hear from a parent of one in a few minutes. I also am very proud to say that our faculty are leaders in many ways. So this here is a very recent National Science Foundation grant to help with scholarships in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, because we realize that not everyone comes from the same socioeconomic background. So this work done by Professor Mark Jordan and others brings $1.5 million to CRLU to support those students over the next 5 years. This is not the only one. We have so many other initiatives which faculty are pursuing to support our students, support the research in collaboration with our students. That this is just an example, but it is an important one because it's also putting CRLU on the map to be nationally recognized. National Science Foundation funding is an important way of other peers to acknowledge that the work done here at CRLU is actually unique and impactful. So those two, and then, many of you are asking about internships and other opportunities. I just took this picture the other day. This is from the Business and Engineering Career Fair, which we held recently. And there were 54 employers for our programs. There were over 628 students engaged. Now, what happens next is basically that conversation continues offline, and students and employers work on different interview options, and we support them as well. But I thought this would be very energizing because this was after a gap of 3 years we were able to do this event in person. And there are some who think that career fairs are going away and really everybody's hired online, but you should have seen the energy in this room. there were so much uh, organic interactions between the employers, returning students, alumni coming back to campus to recruit, and just the students talking to those alums. I was very proud of all of our alumni as well as our students who participated in this. But this is just an example. So moving on, I wanted to brag a little bit about some more faculty. We have national experts. There are two awards which we give out. One is the Arlene Bannon Chair, and the other is a professorship in mechanical engineering. So you can see and you can read about them, but one story I will share for both of them. So Joe is a professor in chemistry, and of course, his Arlene Bannon Chair is a recognition for his research. But what he's really enthusiastic and curious about is mentoring the students. So Joe will take time to mentor the students one-on-one, as long as it takes. And this is really the hallmark of SU professors. Similarly, Dr. Yenlin Han, she is one, her research is in engineering education and fluid systems, but she really works with the students to encourage them to think entrepreneurially, and also think about finding solutions which are novel and creative. So she'll support that, and many of her students actually have patents uh, in work coming out of her lab. So those are just two examples, but I thought I'll share that. And as we come together, as we, this is almost our first quarter after many years of, remote learning, online, on-campus learning, and so on. This is the first quarter we have actually come together on campus, and there is so much energy. The theme for us in College of Science and Engineering has been reforming the community. How we have done that is through ongoing dialogue, extracurricular activities. Each program, each department is hosting social events to get to know their students. Each program is hosting faculty community groups where faculty are coming together to talk about what are they observing. Our focus is really on making sure that the students are supported. So again, just as a help, you could encourage your student to participate in some of those community building experiences. And we try to be mindful that students are taking a lot of classes. There are lots of things going on, but our advising center, for example, had a donut and coffee time for students, and we did it for 2-3 days, and it was very well attended. We also have a puzzle sitting in our advising office. So if any student wants to come and make a few pieces of that puzzle, but also ask a question about what classes to take, or how to register for a course, or how to take advantage of a a LinkedIn profile, we are happy to engage in that conversation. And so are various faculty advisors. So just thinking about this theme, uh, please encourage your students to attend. So, as I look through your questions, there were a couple of themes which stood out. One was, how do we partner with lots of industry around Seattle area? And how do we get students to have that experience and experiential learning? And one of the big ones is undergraduate research and what we call projects. So senior capstone projects. This is just a list of all the projects which are being sponsored for the last 2-3 years. And you can see some of the usual names, Amazon, Boeing, but you can also see some of the other ones. So there is a Seattle City Light project, there is a Puget Sound Energy project, and there is a, other Vote Gritty project. That's an interesting one. I would let you search that up. But we have a whole range of partners which come to campus and sponsor projects where the students get to work with industry partners working on real things. So I would give an example of Kenworth. Their senior capstone projects have actually showed up on actual product which Kenworth makes. So that's just an example of how impactful this activity is for our students. But it's a great experience, and we have quite a list here. Similarly, for this has been going on for over 30 years, and I listed some of the data, and I'm happy to share this. But there were 221 unique sponsors, and there are many which are repeat sponsors. But this is a great exercise for our students, for our faculty, but also for the sponsors, because they get to work with our students in that setting. There were also some questions about career resources. And so I thought, I am the new person. This is my 6 month into this role. I asked the Career Services Office, and this is what they provided. So of course, we had career fair. We have what we call industry takeover days. So, Boeing might come to campus and talk about Boeing and what opportunities exist, not just to College of Science and Engineering, but also to business school and to law school and to College of Arts and Sciences and so on. So there is industry takeover day. We routinely have classroom presentations and workshops, where we invite external speakers, industry partners who come to talk about a particular topic, but also sometimes just share their journey. We have many of those partners. Then faculty have ongoing exchange of information with different industries, and students, when they work together with faculty, they can learn about that. Uh, we have one-on-one career coaching and employer engagement opportunities. So I would just say, if there is one thing we can encourage your student to do, would be to sign up on Handshake, because that's where most of the initial conversations begin. And if I add another little bit, would be to have them make a LinkedIn profile. These days, um, if you're really going to be professionally active, then there must be a LinkedIn profile. And I would just encourage that as well. So what happened last year? Well, as far as outcomes are concerned, I'm proud to say that you can see the numbers. Each of these programs, College of Science and Engineering, 96% of our graduating class was employed by the graduation. And that is almost 400 or so students. You can see it from program by program, but there is really not a big difference in many cases. And then sometimes we don't have full data, so that may be reflection of what's happening, but it is really a experience where most students in our program are employed by the time of graduation. And some of the key employers are listed as well here for the last year's class. Talking about alumni, we have over 10,800 alumni. Most of them are undergraduate alumni. The distribution is more male than female, but that, of course, is a long-term data. I also list the top 10 degrees which our alumni hold, and you could see through that there are many engineering programs. I was really delighted to learn that software engineering, I don't know how many of us might realize this, but software engineering actually started at Seattle U, and it was a partnership with Boeing which started the field of software engineering. So nowadays we hear about software engineering through the lens of IT companies, Microsoft and so on, but it started as a partnership with Boeing when they really were looking to create systems in place, which would then work to develop some kind of expertise around how to build software for airplanes in a reliable way. Then what I would add is, if we look around, then no surprises there. There are lots of employers of our CSE alumni, and where do they live is close to home. Washington, California, Oregon top the list, and Honeywell, U.S. Navy, Amazon, Microsoft, Boeing also top the list. So before I start taking your questions, I invited a surprise guest for all of you. Corky and Nancy are joining us today, and I'm very grateful for their participation. They are the proud parents of Brad. Brad Chu is a 2017 graduate of Seattle University and currently a PhD candidate at UC Davis, where he's working on very exciting technology, which I would say, maybe Corky and Nancy can talk a little bit about. And they're retired, reside in Cupertino. Corky had a career in high tech, basically Apple, and Nancy in biotechnology. So those are two areas of our growth as well. They currently spend time in the garden, cycling, rowing, engaging in social activities, chasing after Cooper. And they also spend time in Oregon doing outdoor stuff. So with that, I'll stop sharing and hand it over to Nancy and Corky for their remarks. And then maybe we can circle back and take your questions.
Thank you, Amit. Well, I'm Corky Chu.
And I'm Nancy Gilbert.
And we've been invited by Amit to speak primarily our perspective and observations as former Seattle University parents. I do want to preface our remarks is that our son, Brad, had a very nonlinear college path, maybe unlike the parents out there today. Our son was actually a transfer student to Seattle University, so he came in as a junior. Prior to that, Brad was initially at another college where after his freshman year, he recognized that he selected the wrong major and maybe the wrong school in terms of fit. And so that kind of started what we title our educational odyssey for Brad as he withdrew from his former college and attended various other schools and took coursework at other colleges. He eventually found him on the doorsteps of Seattle University. And that's probably what we'd like to discuss with you mostly is the importance that Seattle has in terms of providing guidance and support to his career as well as his experience at Seattle University. So
when Amit asked us if we would consider doing this, he asked us if we would share our impressions as parents, impressions of Seattle University. And those impressions actually began well before Brad started there. And when we were talking about what we wanted to share with you tonight, what we thought about were what we call touch points. And those were times when Brad had interaction with someone from Seattle University, or we did, either before or once he was accepted. And what we learned over time was that every touch point that we had was just absolutely remarkable. And we can say it was remarkable because Brad attended classes and tried to look at different options in different places at so many different places that we actually are pretty experienced at what other schools do. And what we discovered was that what may seem like just a normal thing to have happen, or to the folks at Seattle University, it's just like, well, of course we would do that. To us as parents, it was remarkable. They made a big difference in terms of helping him as he went through the admissions process and also once he got there. What we learned out of this was that with the support of Seattle University, as parents, we could basically be on standby and count on that Brad was in good hands and that he was getting the advice and counsel that he needed to be successful there. So when Amit said early on that he appreciated the trust that parents place in him, the trust is really well earned and well deserved.
So Nancy spoke on touch points. And Brad's first touch point was even prior to getting accepted to Seattle University. He did a reconnaissance or an exploratory visit to Seattle University. And what was remarkable was the people he met. And one was with the Gwen Jackson, who was the admissions counselor for transfer students. And she provided and helped with a roadmap of how to essentially get accepted to Seattle University or any other university. And he received this guidance and these observations, and he returned home with this roadmap of how to take his next step in his college career. Secondly, while he was at his reconnaissance or exploratory visit, he was able to sit in on a class taught by Dr. Theodore Schumann in the mechanical engineering department. And he was just fascinated by the interaction and the dynamics between the students and the teachers. And he thought that was just remarkable. The interaction and the value that he placed on his education with the close relationship between the student and faculty. And so when he returned to Cupertino following this reconnaissance exploratory visit, he was very jazzed about Seattle University. And as parents, we were somewhat relieved that now maybe this educational odyssey was going to be finished in terms of his knowing what he was going to do in finishing his college career. And so, again, as Nancy pointed out, we were just really struck by the support and guidance that all of the people he interfaced with at Seattle University at that time provided him. And that was really deeply appreciated. So.
And Amit also referenced the importance of the student interactions with the professors and the faculty and the staff. And it was our experience that as Brad got there, that there was just so much evidence of the dynamics of the interaction and how student-centered the teaching was. And it was just such an actively engaging experience for Brad once he got there. When he arrived at Seattle University as a transfer student, he had, we just saw it as a puzzle of a transcript. He had classes from so many different places that he had attended, and it was pretty hard to wrangle your arms around this transcript. But his advisor, Dr. Josh Hamill, saw it absolutely as a puzzle, and he helped Brad within days have a plan to be able to graduate within 2 years and nothing postponed. At other schools Brad had talked to, he had been cautioned it might take up to an extra year or 2 years to graduate because his transcript was so complex. But Dr. Hamill just had it sorted out. The transfer admissions department just did a yeoman's job going through all of his credits and determining what would work and what wouldn't work. And so it was these kinds of touch points that just made such a difference for him and got him off on a great foot. He also had classes with Dr. Hahn, as well as Dr. Theodore Schumann. And both of them just have such a passion and an energy and an authenticity that they exercise with their students. And they provided Brad not only with the technical support in terms of engineering, but a mentorship that went well beyond that capacity as well. Seattle University, in our opinion, really practices a whole student or a whole person approach. And so our experience with Brad was that he had a wonderful foundation for a technical education, but the emotional and the social support is just as critical, and he received that as well. So I guess as parents, if we reflect back on his experience there, it just could not have been better. Today, Brad is working on his PhD at UC Davis. And as he was finishing up at Seattle U and working on his project, Dr. Hahn was his mentor and the professor advisor for his project. Brad was beginning to have a sense that that may have been what he wanted to do. And so both Dr. Schumann and Dr. Hahn were absolutely there for Brad to help him make his decisions about what he wanted to do, how he should go about approaching it, even schools that he might want to look at. So they were both instrumental in helping him make decisions about what he wanted to do next. So they've been behind him, not only while he was there, but as he's continued. He's now in his 5th year. We're hoping that he will graduate about this time next year. And they've been with him in a support capacity. They've provided him guidance when, as anyone who's had a PhD student in their family knows, there are moments when they get kind of down about how things are going. And both of them have stayed in touch with him to help him through those times. It's been just remarkable.
Also, I guess earlier, Amit, you pointed out for the students to take advantage of all the opportunities outside of the classroom as well as inside the classroom in terms of assisting them with their future plans. And I will do a shameless plug right now is that we created an endowment called the Mechanical Engineering Innovators Endowment Fund. And this particular fund was set up to provide to the students access to industry leaders, business experts on a casual, informal basis. And this is where Seattle University invites these individuals into on campus and for a lecture as well as a reception, so that again the students have access to the people, to actual people in out there in the working environment. And the point being is that I think encourage your students to take advantage of all the opportunities a university has to offer, whether it's in the classroom as well as outside of the classroom. And so that was one way that we hoped that many students have trouble, whether they're finding internships or jobs, to get exposure to what people are really doing on the outside and to seek advice from those individuals. And so I think in closing, we reflect heavily on the tenets of a Jesuit education. And it's to challenge students to think clearly, think for themselves, and to test commonly accepted knowledge. The point being is that these skills or these principles will guide, I think, at least our son in terms of what they're going to do once they leave Seattle University. It will help them in terms of getting that internship, looking for a job, or in our case, assisting Brad in getting into grad school. So that's kind of our reflections on our perspective on as being a Seattle University parent. So thank you very much for having us.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Corky. Your remarks just solidify in my mind what unique opportunities we have here to support our students. Thanks in many ways to you for creating the endowment and also being there for our students today and always. I just wanted to say that, innovation, as we think about reimagining curriculum and as we think about growth of the college, innovation is a skill which will become more prominent for our graduates to exercise. And we are going to work on creating that opportunity for all students. So we have already started conversation with our business school here on campus so that many more students can participate in what you basically started through your endowment. So thank you for that, and thank you for your comments. I think we can maybe take a few questions. Lori, do you have any questions which we can answer?
Yes, we do. We've got quite a few coming into the Q&A. So, and then we've got some others if we have time. So could you talk a bit why some classes are asynchronous on it? Is that consistent with our mission? We're in a different time now than we were before.
Yeah, so that's a very good one. Part of the reason why we have some classes, very select few in what we would call online asynchronous modality, is that there are students who are trying to get ahead or catch up on some skill, and we want them to be able to do that at their own time frame. So there are examples of students trying to learn machine learning or learn about NFTs, and we have those classes. there are some very select few there, but it is really driven by the pedagogy and also the student need. So that's what I would say. I'm happy to look into if there is a specific example and follow up, but my initial response is that it is really to address a student need which we have observed over the years.
Thank you. Another question is about why is computer engineering not accredited? Can you speak
Oh
to that?
yeah, so I should have added. So as we speak, computer engineering, actually, so let me just talk about broader perspective here. We have computer science program and computer engineering program. Computer engineering is housed in electrical and computer engineering program department. So computer engineering is actually a very new degree, and their accreditation visit is this fall. So if you see, electrical engineering and electrical and computer engineering faculty extremely busy, it's because they are having to write up 2 accreditation reports, not just one for electrical engineering and one for computer engineering program. So if we have this follow-up conversation in a year or so, I'm hoping to give you an update, but it is a new program and it requires, before we can apply for accreditation, it requires a few graduates. And so this was the first time we were able to apply for accreditation visit to happen in October of 2023.
Great, thank you. Next question is, how vigorous is Seattle U's College of Science and Engineering curriculum when compared to other universities' curriculums?
So that's a tricky one. I don't really have a direct response to that. I would say that, our students, I mean, compete is probably too harsh a word, but I will use it anyway. Our students can compete at the global level. You saw where our students go and what kind of, employers are looking for them. And so I don't think anything is out of the scope for our graduates. I would just say that, it really is a partnership, meaning students should take advantage of all the resources. But if they do, then Seattle U moves them to a place where they can be ready for those jobs of the future, those graduate school opportunities, and can be doing amazing things. I'm always on a daily basis inspired by what our alumni are doing in the community for different industry, government, nonprofits. So the list is endless. I just shared 1 or 2 examples here today, but our graduates are doing remarkable work.
Great, thank you. An advice question, if you will. This is from a parent. My son is really struggling with finding an internship between bachelor's and master's programs. What advice would you give me to give him?
So what I would say is first step might be to reach out to the advisor and then also connect with the career services office because if we constantly get information about opportunities, so how we can connect the dots essentially would be the next step. Have him or her sign up for Handshake. That would be the first step. I'm sure they have done it. But if you still have questions, please have the student reach out to our advising office and they'll be happy to assist.
Great. Next question is, a lot has been focused on some of the engineering pieces. Could you maybe share a bit about any of the biology or medical track that we have our students in those science programs?
Yeah, exactly. So, we of course learned about some of the engineering side from the lens of Corky and Nancy, but we do have a very successful biology program, chemistry program, physics and mathematics. Many of those students, especially in biology, physics and chemistry, go on to work at research institutions. So University of Washington may be one example, but Fred Hutch is the other one. We have several of those graduates going to graduate school and also going to work for local medical, companies and hospitals and so on. The one suggestion I might have for those students is to find what they are passionate about and find a faculty member to work with on undergraduate research. So they may or may not end up doing research as a career, but doing undergraduate research for sciences and engineering both is an essential skill. It really just tells you how to solve problems. And that is something which you learn by doing. So I would just encourage all of your students, if they have not done so already, find a teacher, ask them about, what are their research interests and how can one get involved. So that would be my initial recommendation, suggestion. But the success of those students was also reflected in my earlier comments. 96% of them are employed or are in graduate school by the time of graduation. So all of our programs are performing very well. All of them are driven by the same values of whole person education. So there is really no difference there.
Our next question is, are there specific pathways or support channels for students who may want to go directly to graduate school after undergrad? When does that planning typically begin?
Yeah, so I think it depends on the students when they make that decision, because our faculty, so we have two levels of advising. One is the professional advising, which the college has resources for, but also each student has a faculty advisor. And faculty advisor, I know, are curious and engaged in that conversation. So I would say if a student decides earlier than later, they could take advantage of things like 3+2 program or 4+1 program, where 4 years of undergraduate and then some work in summer and 1 year of graduate program might help them get a graduate degree, a master's degree in 5 years. So earlier the better, but it's never too late. I think students change their mind. I have conversations with my son almost every other week about changing his mind. So, we are there to support them, but I think having a plan early on, which may or may not be what, we end up with, is always a good idea. So I would encourage that conversation with the faculty advisor right away.
Our next question is, what are the pros and cons of taking the fast track bachelor's/master's in computer science?
Okay, well, so let me hope to answer this question two ways. It really depends on the student. How do you learn? Our main goal is to support each student in their vision of what success looks like for them. So if the goal is that you can finish the program as quickly as possible, we will make a plan for you. There are of course constraints, and those have to be accounted for, and work has to be done. But we will work with you to figure out that fast track plan. My recommendation, though, is to focus on what are you passionate about? What are you interested in? And take advantage of this opportunity which college presents to really learn and grow that way. Not just think about it as a stepping stone to a job. Because yes, everybody gets a job, but you will only be happy and you'll only be successful if you're really utilizing your passion and interest. So take some time to identify those, and maybe it is that you take a computer science class but also take a biology elective, because down the road you might work on both of those. Multidisciplinary framework for STEM education will continue to grow. I don't hear many people talk about a very siloed approach to the future of STEM. So the more you can encourage your students to think about multiple disciplines and how to work in teams, the better prepared they would be and the more success our graduates will achieve collectively. So pros and cons in my mind is a very individual decision, and sometimes there are other reasons beyond our control to fast track the education process, and we would support that. But if you're just really looking for a holistic advice, my would be to identify your passion first and take advantage of those experiences in college.
Great. Could you maybe address study abroad opportunities for science and engineering students?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I don't know, did Brad take any advantage of a study abroad, uh, Nancy or
No,
Corky?
not, yeah.
Okay.
Since he
So
was
yeah,
only
I think he was a
year.
transfer student too.
Yeah.
So one of the ways I think about it is, of course, during pandemic, we didn't do very much, but there are existing partnerships with various Jesuit institutions in Mexico, in Colombia, in India. We are working to building one in Middle East and in Europe, but those are existing partnerships, and we are trying to grow that. So, for example, this summer, or I would say this winter term, one of our faculty is taking a group of students to Chile, and it is a immersive 2-week experience where students work and learn from our own faculty who goes with them, but it is a study abroad opportunity. We had a group of faculty engage in partnership with an institution in India where we have long-term relationship. We are building an experience in Mexico City. We are also we have an ongoing experience in Colombia where as recently as August, I believe, some of our faculty and students were there collaboratively working with study abroad opportunities. So we have quite a few. We can do more, but it is an integral part of learning experience to be working with different cultures and different societies to understand the global enterprise which is STEM is nowadays.
And you spoke a lot about internships. Is there a particular year that is the best year or most appropriate year for a student to be in an internship?
Yeah, and I would say get multiple, right? This is not a one and done deal because your student might love the first one or may not like the first one. So I would say there is no good time as present. I mean, literally, I think when you have that Thanksgiving dinner, encourage them to apply. I mean, even if they're first year students, we encourage them to apply for internships this coming summer. So having more than one would be great, but definitely have one under your belt, irrespective of what program of study you're in.
And are the opportunities for internships available to our international students the same way as domestic students?
Yeah, so international students are a little bit different constraints because of visa requirements. So one of the activities which we as Seattle Youth support is what is called optional practical training. And there are some rules to follow, but I would say it's not exactly the same, but it is quite a supportive enterprise where it comes to international students.
I think you've hit what we had come in the Q&A and pieces that we weren't able to hit in your presentation. So, and we're getting quite close to 7. So I think we're ready to wrap up.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, first of all, to our panelists, Nancy, Corky, Laurie, thanks for arranging this. It's truly a pleasure and a delight. In closing, I would just say that, your students are doing amazing work. It's not easy to study and be far away from home if you're a first-year student, or if you're junior, sophomore, or senior student, they are juggling many different aspects of their education. But encourage them to ask their questions. Don't let them just sit in the dorm room struggling alone. Have them come to the faculty office, come to the advising center, go to the career center, go to, any help which they need. If they can't get their answers, have them come to the third floor of Bannon Hall. That's where our offices are, and we will find where they can get their questions answered. I also want to invite all of you as parents to one more thing, which I'll just share here. And this is just to save the date. So if you're local in town, we are having a College of Science and Engineering Day at the Climate Pledge Arena, where SU men's basketball team will be playing on February 1st. If you're local, please join us. If you're not, you could cheer from wherever you may be. They are 3-0. What we want to do is really bring the community together. So parents are an integral part of our Seattle Youth College of Science and Engineering community, and I would hope to see some of you there. Please, come and say hello. If you're on campus, please stop by. Or if you have a question or concern, write us an email. But we hope to hear from you. We hope to support your students, of course, but also answer any questions you may have. I think it's a partnership, and I might ask every now and then all of you to help nudge your students. And it's really a partnership in that exercise where we can all support the students. We are very proud of our students, faculty, and staff, and I think you will be too as you see them grow through this educational journey. So with that, back to you, Lori, and thank you, Nancy and Corky, for joining us. Have a good evening, everyone.
Great. Thank you so much, Corky and Nancy and Dean Shukla, for sharing your stories and your information tonight. And again, thank you to our family members for joining us. This is the first time we've done one of these, so I'm very grateful to our dean for taking the first step into this kind of a program with families. And again, parents, if you have questions, you can always reach out to me at parents@seattleu.edu. If I can't answer it for you, I will try to get you to the appropriate person. We wish you all a good night. Thanks so much.